Giving feedback is an important aspect of communication. And I'm not talking just with inside Toastmasters. Hands up who wanted to become a better evaluator just being in Toastmasters? We have some. However, wouldn't you also like to be able to apply those skills to your own work environment or even within your communication with friends, colleagues, your partner, family, and so on? So I'm going to talk about some of the good things about giving feedback and some things to avoid. So in giving feedback, it's quite important to be very specific and detailed in your feedback. Giving statements like, that was good, that was nice, I liked it, it doesn't really add any value to boost the person's self-esteem and empower them to change. I can remember back in uni, like in my first semester, where the lecturer had put good next to some things. Yeah, I reviewed my grade and I only received a credit. I thought, that's not good to me. So in giving feedback, it's important to say why something was good. It might be, I thought this was good because you had fantastic structure, or that you had a very compelling argument. That is a lot more specific. You could say it's more assiduous, being more descriptive. In giving feedback to someone, let's say in a work environment, or even with your kids if they did something good or they did something naughty, it's important to do it straight after the event. Let's say, for example, someone was interrupting you at work and they constantly did it. If that were to drag on for an extended period of time, the chances are that's only going to frustrate you even more, and you won't be giving feedback, you'll be giving a piece of your mind. So it is important to nip it in the bud as soon as possible, whether it's something that the person is doing that's undesirable, or even if it's something that you want to encourage that behavior. Let's say, for example, someone achieves something really fantastic at work. Often an incentive, praise, or even an award can encourage that behavior even further. And quite importantly is the language that you use when giving feedback. Often when giving feedback, it's good to start with an I statement. I thought, or what I heard you say was this, and I liked it for this reason. It's also important with language when you are giving feedback, if you're using the CRC method, not to link the positive or the constructive thing with what the person's going to improve. So by linking, let's say, saying, I enjoyed your speech because you used excellent vocal variety, but you could have done with more body language. What does the but do within that sentence?
It negates the preceding.
Yeah, absolutely. So it kind of undermines the positive points that you've used, and all the person is going to hear is, but it could have been better. So next, I'm going to be doing a role play with Karen, but before I do that, I'm just going to give you some context of the situation. And I want you to keep three things in mind when we're doing this. This script isn't perfect. There's some things that are good about it, and there's some things that can be better. But I want you to think of 3 points when we're doing this. I want you to think whether this is specific, whether the feedback is given at the right time, and whether this accentuates the positive. So this is the context. And for the sake of brevity, I'm going to have Karen do it from her seat, but if this was a real life situation, we'll be doing it in private. So this is the context. This is a debriefing session between a manager and a staff member following the completion of a project that went fairly well. And the manager feels that there are some areas where things could have been handled more effectively. So just preceding the task, the manager says, "What do you think you did well?"
I thought it went quite well.
It wasn't too bad.
What do you mean?
I like the way that you handled the planning and you engaged the project team very effectively. They were right on board and knew what they had to do when. That's often a tough thing to achieve. I think that you had engaged the union, if you had engaged the union early on, that would have been helpful and saved us delay later on. I'm wondering, how do you think their engagement could have best been done?
I think I should have suggested earlier about the project in more detail at the staff union consultative meetings. I probably didn't develop a clear enough communication strategy from the outset to identify the needs of not only the union, but a number of other stakeholders. I seemed to work that bit out as I went along.
That's a good point, and I should have probably asked about the communication strategy earlier on. How do you think we can best learn from this project experience?
I was going to convene a debriefing with the project team so we could all look back and think about what we might do differently next time.
That's a great idea. Brainstorming with the project team is a great way to share learnings. If there is anything you need from me in that debriefing process, please let me know. And that's the end of the dialogue. So what do you think in that exchange went well? Anyone?
I like the positive feedback at the beginning, and I like the way you asked Karen how she thought it could be improved.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was an emphasis on what went well, and there was also clarification throughout. Was there anything else that you liked about that exchange?
And there's a question. Did you study human resources?
No, I didn't.
Because that's a typical sort of situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
So yeah, that one there was off the internet and it was very structured. And was there anything about that you didn't like in terms of giving effective feedback?
Where you said it wasn't bad, I thought that was a bit negative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I agree. So the points that I'm making in terms of feedback is also to accentuate the positive in terms of giving positive reinforcement for behaviour. And being specific in that exchange, the manager was quite specific. However, another thing that might have been better by the manager is to get in early with the feedback. As you could probably hear in that exchange, the manager probably left it a little bit too late in order to give feedback. So those are three important aspects of giving feedback: is being specific, accentuate the positive, and being timely in giving the feedback.